There's yet another Amazon Fire TV Stick. The new Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K Max is a mouthful, but is it any different from other Amazon Fire devices? And should you run out and buy one right now? It retails for $55, which is definitely on the higher end of the streaming device spectrum. It's more than the Chromecast and the Roku Streaming Stick 4K, both of which retail for $50. So, is the new Fire Stick worth the extra $5? That might depend on what tech you prefer. We'll save our opinion for the end after we've covered the new device in depth for you.
In this Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K Max review, we cover what's in the box, how it's different, and how it performs in comparison to other Fire Stick 4K devices. We bought one recently, and as you can see right on the box, one of the big upgrades it features is that it accommodates Wi-Fi 6. If you're wondering what that is, just know it's the newest version of Wi-Fi. If your Wi-Fi router is more than a year old, you likely don't have it.
Now when you open the box, you'll see Amazon's classic cardboard packaging. Pulling everything out, you'll see the streaming dongle, a power adapter, a cord to connect the dongle to the adapter, which you can plug into your wall. Or if you have a newer TV, you can let the TV power the device and you won't need the cord and adapter. There's also a second generation Alexa enabled remote with 2 AAA batteries and an extender in case you have a curved TV and find the dongle doesn't fit nicely into your HDMI port. Finally, there's a little getting started guide.
Now let's take a closer look at the new Fire TV Stick itself. You can see that it's about 4 inches long and 1 inch tall. It has an HDMI output on one end and a micro USB input on the side where you can plug in the power adapter.
Now let's take a closer look at the remote. At the very top left, there's a power button that you can use to power your TV on and off, as well as your Fire device. The microphone is that tiny little hole at the top. The blue button in the top middle is the Alexa Assistant button that you can use to find shows and open apps with your voice.
Below that is the selector wheel that you can use to navigate through content on the app home screen and within your streaming service apps in the Fire interface. The middle of that selector wheel is your select button. Below that you have a few rows of buttons. The first row has back, home, and menu buttons. The second has rewind, play, pause, and fast forward buttons. This is something we really appreciate about the Fire remote, as not all streaming device remotes have these buttons.
Below that is a mute button, volume up and down, and then a guide button that you can use to bring up a live TV guide. Finally, at the bottom, you have buttons that link to popular streaming devices like Prime Video, Netflix, Disney Plus, and Hulu. So, if you subscribe to these services, you can get into them with the push of just one button. Okay, now before we get into the tech specs and what's different, let's just quickly see how this second generation remote compares to earlier Fire Stick remotes. As you can see here, the older remote is on the left. It has an Alexa voice button, selector wheel, back, home, and menu buttons. And then it has rewind, play, pause, and fast forward buttons. There's no volume buttons or the ability to use one remote to power your TV and streaming device.
If you use your device every day, you may appreciate the convenience of having just one remote instead of 2 or 3. If so, this could be a factor to consider when deciding whether or not you want to pay up for the new Fire TV Stick 4K Max device. But it's far from the only reason. Let's get into the specs so you can see just what's different about the new device. So as you can see, all of the Fire Sticks Amazon sells support 1080p HD viewing, but only the Fire TV Stick 4K, 4K Max, and Fire TV Cube let you stream content in 4K.
Looking at the Fire Stick 4K and the 4K Max, you can see that both support Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos, but only the Max offers Wi-Fi 6 integration and live picture-in-picture viewing. Both have the same amount of storage, 8 gigs, but the Max has 2 gigs of memory compared to the Fire Stick 4K's 1.5, and the CPU is better on the Max. You get 1.8 gigahertz compared to 1.7 with the Fire Stick 4K.
That might not seem like much, but it does make a difference when it comes to how fast you're able to move through content and how fast things load. If you game on your Fire Stick, you'll appreciate the upgrade. The specs still aren't as good as the Fire TV Cube, but then it costs about $40 less, so that's to be expected.
Now, once you set up and start using the Fire Stick 4K Max, you'll see that the actual viewing experience feels very much the same. You won't see a huge improvement in picture quality, but you will be able to get to your content faster, especially if you've been using an older Fire Stick that is older than the 4K.
Speaking of older streaming sticks, Amazon currently sells 5 Fire devices, which can make it confusing to know which one does what. In order from cheapest and least powerful to most expensive and most robust, they are the Fire TV Stick Lite, the Fire TV Stick, the Fire TV Stick 4K, the Fire Stick 4K Max, which we're reviewing today, and the Fire TV Cube.
With that out of the way, let's take a look now at what the performance is like between the older Fire Stick and the brand new Fire TV 4K Max.
When you plug in your new stick, it will install software and pair your remote. If you've used a Fire Stick before, you'll get a prompt to restore your Fire TV settings from another device. We were able to do this, and it was great because it imported everything we had loaded on our previous Fire device right into this new one in just a minute or two.
Now, we did notice that it asked us to install some specific streaming services, like Showtime, Plex, Apple TV, and YouTube TV, which was interesting. But after that, it brought us to the home screen, which was very much, well, actually identical to the home screen from the Fire TV Stick 4K that we had been using the day before.
Yeah, you've got your slim bar with Home, Find, and Live buttons, along with 6 apps, and your Settings button, followed by ads and rows of content. The experience and menus are the same, but honestly, everything is really fast. We were able to select and launch Netflix in about a second and move super quick between everything. And this gets really noticeable when you compare it to an older generation Fire Stick.
We're going to speed it up so you don't have to sit through it as long as we did, but it took a full 27 seconds to go from clicking Netflix on the home screen to being able to get into the app and find something to watch. Now, 27 seconds may not seem like much, but when you compare it to 1 or 2 seconds, it's a really noticeable difference. And it really is the main reason to upgrade.
Yeah, so let's reveal our decision on whether or not you should upgrade to the new Fire Stick 4K Max. If you already use Fire TV and have an older device, this holiday season could be an ideal time to buy the new Fire TV Stick 4K Max, as it could potentially be discounted.
Especially if you found yourself starting to get annoyed at the lag time in your current stick, it could be worth it. If, however, you have the Fire TV Stick 4K and you're happy with it, wait on upgrading for a while. As for how this device compares to others like the Chromecast and Roku Streaming Stick 4K, that really comes down to which interface you like more. As we covered in our Chromecast review, if you like Google TV and the recommendations and experience that it provides, the Chromecast is a little cheaper.
It's also not as littered with ads, which is a complaint many people have about Fire TV devices. The Fire home screen admittedly feels very busy. If you want a more streamlined experience that lets you get to just your apps as quickly as possible, you may prefer the Roku Streaming Stick 4K. It is a bit cheaper than the Fire Stick Max and is very fast and responsive. But if you have an Alexa device or an older stick, this new device could be worth the cost.
All right, that does it for this review. But we want to hear from you. Have you tried the new Fire Stick 4K Max yet? What do you think of its performance? Is it worth $55 in your opinion? If you're a Fire user, will you be upgrading or will you be waiting a while?
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you can get all our new reviews and streaming news when they drop.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in our next video.